So I have never received such an outpouring of love as I did on my last video. Like, I've gotten tens of thousands of comments of people thanking me and blessing my family for generations and telling me how brave I am. And sure, there's been quite a bit of hate and wishes of death upon me as well, but I would say that's like 5% compared to the 95%. But the thing is, I really don't feel like I was that brave. I just encourage y'all to read a book by a Palestinian author. And honestly, I chose my words very, very carefully because I was very wary about wading in. But since I'm already getting the death threats and stuff, I thought I'd just go ahead now and be more brave and maybe earn some of that respect and love that I have been getting from so many of you. So the Israeli government has announced that they are cutting off food, water, electricity, and fuel to Gaza, which is a city that has 1 million children in it. An elite general in the Israeli army has called Palestinians animals, which is what you say before you're going to genocide a people. Forget about Hamas, because if you are in the US, your tax dollars are not funding Hamas, which is not a state government. But your tax dollars in the US are very extremely going to support the Israeli army, which it really looks like is about to commit ethnic cleansing and genocide on an unprecedented level. Now, a ongoing ethnic cleansing and genocide has been happening in Israel against the Palestinians for 75 years. But what it looks like is about to happen is an incredible escalation of that, possibly up to extermination. And your tax dollars, if you are a USian, are going to fund it. And so you have a moral obligation to do something about that. Joe Biden this morning bragged to a press conference that he did not urge any restraint upon Netanyahu, who looks primed to commit mass murder and extermination and create one of the world's greatest humanitarian crises in this city, which again has 1 million children in it. And in my last video, I called Gaza an open air prison, but someone corrected me and was like, really, a better term is concentration camp, because prison implies being convicted of a crime. The people of Gaza, everyone, that's younger than 75, their only crime is being born in Gaza as Palestinians. Another comment I've gotten a lot is like, well, Hamas started it, so they're getting what they get. Israel started this conflict 75 years ago is probably the best place to start, when Great Britain gave the Israeli army, the Zionists, a bunch of tanks and machine guns, and they went around to Palestinian villages and dragged people out of their homes at gunpoint and cut down their olive trees and relocated them to the Gaza Strip, where now their families have been in prison for multiple generations. There are many, many Palestinians who have keys that they wear around their necks that are the keys to the homes that their parents or grandparents or they themselves were kicked out of 75 years ago at gunpoint. The land was stolen. And ever since then, they have been denied civil rights. They have been treated as second-class citizens or not citizens at all, or not treated as people at all. The theft of home continues. Every year there are settlers going into land that by treaty, by the laws that Palestinians tried to make with Israel over the years to try to preserve a peace, are constantly being violated by groups of extremely violent Israeli settlers who are backed up by the Israeli military and infrastructure and just build homes illegally on land that's not theirs. I had people in the comments saying, well, Israeli never cheered the death of Palestinians. Again, you're really ignorant. You haven't been paying attention to what's going on. There are countless videos of groups, mobs of violent Israeli settlers parading through Palestinian neighborhoods and in Palestinian holy sites, chanting death to all Arabs, dragging Palestinians from their homes and beating them in the streets. People in my comments saying, well, Israelis never raped. No, again, sorry. The Israeli army has sexually assaulted innumerable Palestinian women, often when they are imprisoned for political crimes like showing up to a peaceful protest or posting about how they should have civil rights on TikTok. So again, if you just started paying attention 2 days ago, you have a lot to learn, and I encourage you to read books about it. And look, I grew up a Jewish American. I grew up hearing, from my more liberal Jewish friends, the both sides, it's complicated argument. The book that really broke through all those Zionist ideas for me personally was Joe Sacco's Palestine. Now, I've been encouraging you to read books by a Palestinian author, but maybe for some USians, that's a bridge too far to start. Well, Joe Sacco is a white journalist. He's not Palestinian. He went to Palestine in the 90s expecting to find this really complicated story, this both sides are at fault thing. And he wrote this graphic novel about, what he discovered there. And because it's a graphic novel, you can read it in 2 to 3 hours and catch up on a whole lot of history. So this is maybe a good place to start. If you want to read something a little more comprehensive, if you're not intimidated by nonfiction books, read The 100 Years' War on Palestine or The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine. Educate yourself quickly, but do not wait until you finish reading a whole book to tell your elected representatives that you do not support genocide and ethnic cleansing in Palestine. Demand that Israel end the blockade and provide food, water, and electricity to the people of Gaza so that 2 million people don't die. And if you can, demonstrations in support of Palestine are being planned in most major cities across the U.S. this weekend. If you're not sure how to find one and get connected, look up Students for Justice in Palestine in your region or the Palestinian Youth Movement, plus the name of your city. Google that, find their social medias, and I'm sure you'll find what they're planning. It is your tax dollars that you labored for, then gave to the government, which is being used to buy the bullets and the missiles and the phosphorus gas that are going to be deployed upon innocent civilians and children in Gaza. So, you have a moral obligation to stand in opposition to that.